Hello YouTube, this is Mario here with another edition of Off the Walls Magic. So today is officially Modern Horizons release day, and with that I have a fun, pretty competitive modern deck to show you all. Recently went 3-2 with it on Magic Online, so I wanted to do a quick deck tech video, and I will be uploading Magic Online gameplay footage probably in the next couple of days. Just have to finish editing it and doing some voiceover. There was some errors in that aspect when I was recording it. Anyways, this is a Bant Reanimator deck with some nice combos worked in, just as like kind of extra backup win conditions, and just like nice little like graveyard synergy combos. So I'm going to start with the 1-drops, work my way up, talk about the combos, move on to the sideboard. So first in the 1-drop slots, we are running 4 copies of On Thin Ice from Modern Horizons, 1 mana Snow Enchantment Aura. Enchant a snow land you control when it enters battlefield, exile target creature an opponent controls until On Thin Ice leaves the battlefield. So real quick about this deck, there is snow synergies, there are graveyard synergies. All of our basic lands are snow lands to help support some of these synergies. So there's 4 copies of On Thin Ice. Alright. And then next in the 1-drop slot, we have just 2 copies of Path to Exile, pretty standard removal there. The reason I went 4 On Thin Ice as opposed to 4 Path to Exile, so maybe flip-flopping it, I like On Thin Ice a little bit more. Yes, they can destroy the land and get the creature back, or destroy the enchantment and get the creature back, but I'm more okay with them doing that than me giving them the extra land. Right now, Modern is a very fast format, and I don't want to help them out in that aspect. It's kind of like, oh, get rid of this creature that's problematic now, and then they can play something a little bit more problematic later. So I'm just running 2 Path to Exiles and 4 On Thin Ice. If they have the enchantment removal, then that's fine. They still have to use resources to get that. First up in the 2-drop slot, I am running a playset of Safi Eriksdotter. So this is 2 mana 2/2, a green and a white, for a legendary creature. You can sacrifice it and target a creature, and when that creature is put into your graveyard from play this turn, you may return that card to play. So this is one of our first combo pieces. I'm going to put 1 copy up here for now, just so I can talk about the combos and synergies later on that you can do with this card. Then next we are running a play set of Fang Coatl. This is another card from Modern Horizons. It is 2 mana for a 1/1 snow creature snake. It has flash and flying. When it enters the battlefield, you may draw a card. That's predominantly what this is in here for, but again, with our snow synergies, it is not difficult to give this thing Death Touch by having at least 3 other snow permanents. But at least in the early game, flashing it in as a blocker or, possibly an attacker. And then later in the game, when it does have Death Touch, it's just good. So we're running 4 copies of that, and then 4 copies of Phantasmal Image. So this is a 2 mana 0/0 illusion. It enters the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except it's an illusion in addition to its other types, and the typical, if it becomes targeted by a spell or ability, you sacrifice it. This is another one of our combo pieces that I'm going to put up here by Safi. A lot of our cards have this whole like enter the battlefield trigger and or leaves the battlefield triggers that we really want to be taking advantage of. So while it is easy to remove, I mean pretty much everything dies to removal. It's not really a big drawback. There are its moments where it's like, that kind of sucked, but it's Magic, what are you going to do? It's all about variance. Up next, we have 4 copies of Remand. 2 mana instant, counter target spell. If you do, return that spell to its owner's hand, draw a card. Just a tempo play, keeps our opponent playing more at our speed, draws us cards, keeps us turning through our deck. And then 4 copies of Altar of Dementia. This doesn't sound like it would go in a Reanimator deck to some people. but it has some very nice combo potential in this deck as well. It is a 2-mana artifact. You can sacrifice a creature. Target player puts a number of cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power from the top of their library into their graveyard. So a lot of the times we'll probably be trying to fuel our own graveyard, because this is, for all intents and purposes, a Reanimator style deck. However, there is an infinite combo with Altar of Dementia, Safi Eriksdotter, and then the next card on our list, which is Renegade Rallier. So Renegade Rallier is a 3-mana 3/2. It has Revolt, so when it enters the battlefield, if a permanent you controlled left the battlefield this turn, return target permanent card with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Alright, so first I'm going to talk about the infinite combo here. Alright, so with Altar of Dementia, Safi Eriksdotter, Renegade Rallier, if you have all 3 of these on the field, which again isn't very difficult, you can sacrifice Safi, target Renegade Rallier, sacrifice Renegade Rallier to the Altar of Dementia, mill your opponent for 3, trigger Safi, this re-enters the battlefield, trigger Revolt, put Safi back into the battlefield, rinse and repeat. You can mill your opponent out entirely with this combo pretty quickly in the game. If they like Thought Seize you or Inquisition you and they put either of these into the yard, you can actually go off with this on turn 3. And I actually have one game in the gameplay footage that actually did do that, so I'll be putting that up again in the very near future. Otherwise, in a Renegade Rallier, apart from getting back Safi or Altar of Dementia, you can grab a Phantasmal Image copy, get another Revolt trigger. You can get your your Ice Fang Coatls back with it. You can grab your On Thin Ices. Another reason why I like to play these in excess over Path to Exile, because even if they destroy the enchantment, you can get it back later on with Renegade Rallier's Revolt trigger. Up next, we have 2 copies of Vesperlark. This is 3 mana for a 2/1 with flying. When it leaves the battlefield, return target creature card with power 1 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Evoke it for 1 and a green. So you can grab your Phantasmal Images with this out of the yard. You can grab your Ice Fang Coatls with this out of the yard. And you can even grab the next card I'm going to talk about. I'm going to skip the 4-drops just while we're on the topic of Vesperlark. We are also running 4 copies of Deep Forest Hermit, the knockoff Deranged Hermit. I actually like this one more. I'd rather deal with Vanishing 3 over Echo any day of the week. But 5 mana for a 1/1 Vanishing 3. When it enters the battlefield, you create 4 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens, and squirrels you control get +1/+1. So because this is a 1/1, you can actually get it back with a Vesperlark, either by evoking it or hard casting and it dying, or you can hard cast it and then like use it as a blocker, sack it to Altar of Dementia, get back your Deep Forest Hermit, get 4 squirrels. Deep Forest Hermit is pretty much 5 mana, make 9 power spread out over 5 bodies. Or if you already have a Deep Forest Hermit out, you can evoke a Vesperlark, grab a Phantasmal Image, copy of the Deep Forest Hermit, or grab a second Hermit, and just make a ton of tokens. So pretty much the primary way that this deck wins is as like a Reanimator beatdown style deck. However, sometimes that just doesn't work quickly enough, depending on how fast our opponent's deck is. So that's why we're running the Altar of Dementia package as a way to just kind of break through some of those tougher matchups. Having a secondary win condition, like mill in a color pie that is typically not inclusive of the mill strategy, tends to throw people off of their game, and they don't really expect it until it's too late. So yeah, the Deep Forest Hermits and just creatures and reanimations is our primary win condition. And then the last 2 cards, before we talk about the lands, is 2 copies of Tamio, Collector of Tales. So I really like this card in Modern. The static ability alone makes this worth playing a lot of the times, as preventing you from discarding cards or sacrificing permanents to abilities or spells that your opponents control. Additionally, the +1, you choose a non-land card name, reveal the top 4 cards of your library, put all cards with a chosen name from them into your hand, the rest into your graveyard. Again, being a Reanimator style deck, even if we whiff, that's 4 cards in our yard that we can pull back at another time, either with, you know, the Vesper Larks or the Renegade Ralliers. Pretty much anything in our deck can be got back with either of those two. But also Tamiyo's -3 to just grab any card from our yard and put it into our hand is also a powerful ability. We typically don't mind tapping out on turn 4, casting this and -3ing it. If they have a removal spell, they have a removal spell. Again, if they have a removal spell, it's going to die regardless. So if we plus it, we minus it. So getting as much value as we can out of it is always, you know, priority. In the mana base, we do need ways to help trigger Revolt. So we are running a total of 8 fetch lands, 4 Windswept Heaths, and 4 Flooded Strands. But also we're running 2 copies of Waterlogged Grove. This is the Simic Horizon land from Modern Horizons. You tap it, pay 1 life, add a green or a blue. You can pay 1 and tap it, sacrifice it, draw a card. That not only draws us a card, it also helps us to trigger Revolt with our Renegade Ralliers so that we can get back stuff from our yard, including this land. So we could even turn that into drawing 2 cards. We could, you know, use these lands with Renegade Rallier to accelerate our mana, grabbing back the fetch lands or the Waterlogged Groves. Then we're running 2 copies of Breeding Pool, Simic Shockland, 2 Temple Gardens, the Selesnya Shockland, 1 copy of Hallowed Fountain, Azorius Shockland, then 3 Snow-Covered Plains, 2 Snow-Covered Islands, and 2 Snow-Covered Forests. Again, the snow-covered lands are very important for this deck, mostly, again, because of On Thin Ice, but also the synergies with the Ice Fang Coatl makes it worth, you know, playing all of those cards. Again, 2 mana for a 1/1 with Flash and Flying that draws a card is already good. Later in the game, just by naturally having Death Touch is also just more beneficial than if we just ran basic lands. So next I'm going to move to the sideboard. Alright, so in our sideboard, we are running 1 copy of Flusterstorm, mostly for the Storm matchup, but, you know, other like non-creature based combo decks as well, being able to counter whatever it is that they're casting to go off. 2 copies of Giver of Runes, just to protect some of our pieces, such as our Deforced Hermits, Vesper Larks, Saphies, Renegade Ralliers, even our Coatls if needed. 2 copies of Pithing Needle, really good against any Planeswalker matchup you might have, or like Walking Ballistas before they drop, any like really problematic activated abilities. 2 copies of Relic of Progenitus for other Reanimator type matchups such as Dredge or this new Hogak deck. Also, another important thing to mention about Safi Eric's-Daughter while we're talking about Hogak, these whole bridge from below things, Safi is just like a natural hoser against those kind of decks. You can just sacrifice it, target one of your guys, and just exile their bridges from below. Next, we have 2 copies of Collector Oof. 2 mana 2/2. Activated abilities of artifacts can't be activated is a Stony Silence on a stick. Reasoning for playing this over your regular Stony Silence is that this one can hit the opponents. Being 2 mana, I can still recur it like I could a Stony Silence. And is good against like this whole Karn Mycosynth Lattice lock. If you drop this in response to them, like, I guess you can't really do it. Well, you might. If you have like Altar of Dementia, Safi, Renegade, you know, do that loop and get it back, then that could be done. But even just dropping this on turn 2 or 3, and then like them playing Karn and Mycosynth Lattice, you basically make it so you have a 2/2 and they have nothing they can activate, including their lands. So I do like the Collector Oof over the Stony Silence, because it is a Stony Silence that can beat down. And 2 copies of Damping Sphere, also for Tron matchups. 2 copies of Force of Negation for control matchups, but also, again, Tron combo, Hogak type decks. And then, finally, 2 copies of Force of Vigor. Again, predominantly for that Tron matchup with Mycosynth Lattice Lock, you can just exile a green card from your hand instead of paying the mana cost, because with that Lattice Lock you can't even tap your lands. You just destroy the Mycosynth Lattice and the Karn, because Lattice makes Karn an artifact, so you can kind of 2-for-1 them like that. And that is Bant Reanimator combo for Modern. If you like the deck, make sure to hit the thumbs up. I will be, again, uploading some video gameplay footage from Magic Online within the next week, I would say. Have a good day.